Ah, Dinky-Doo, my hearties, it's just me, Scottie McClue. Saturday night, nothing gets past me. Welcome, 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 I say, to 1 hour of superb, scintillating information, education, and entertainment, not for just one nation, but for all the nations of the world. So lovely to have you with us, and a big Dinky-Doo. Come and join us, tell 10 to tell 10 to tell 10 that we are live and that we have a lot to discuss tonight. So, and we've only got an hour to do it, and you know how quick it passes. It goes in a flash. So come and join us and join in. Of course, you've got the telephone number 01416289795. You can give us a ring when we open the lines, and that would be marvelous. There's Ian, says, hi, Scottie. Hi, Ian. Dinky-Doo to you. Lovely to have you with us, I say to you, and a very, very warm welcome to everybody who's joining us tonight. Now, last week we had some great calls with Numpty Hedon. And of course, we had Tops Wahey, and Tops Wahey increasingly more popular as every week goes by. Dinky-Doo to you, Scottie, and to you, Ian. A big Dinky-Doo to you, and so glad that you could join us tonight. Now, guys, it's up to you. Do a lot of sharing. We want some sharing, and get yourselves onto all the other platforms. I'll tell you about that as we're going. Susan says, hi, Scottie, watching from hospital. Susan, darling, I am so sorry to hear that you are incapacitated, but I'm very glad that you're somewhere where you will be getting a lot of help. I hope you're all right. Please get well soon, I say to you. So there we go. But everybody will be coming on. Don't you worry about that. And they will tell us exactly what is what. Now, a very good subject for discussion I saw this week, and I can remember we discussed it some time ago, live on the radio. And it was that should young ladies who have got a little one be allowed to breastfeed in public? You know, because some people are saying, oh, it's disgusting. I mean, there was a lady feeding a Wayne on the bus. You know, I didn't know where to look. Well, this is the next generation. And I feel very strongly about this. I'm afraid I do not get put off by the idea. And I think that we should actually have a campaign where ladies can feed a child anywhere in public. So there we are. And I can remember discussing this on the radio. I think I called it the Lob Wan Oot campaign at the time because it was in Scotland. There's the wonderful Murray O'Donnell has joined us. Dinky-Doo, Murray. Lovely to have you with us. And a very, very warm welcome to our Saturday night. And thank you for looking after Susan. Evening, McClue of McClue Towers. A bit blowy tonight. I'm referring to the weather. Oh, I thought you were having a go at me, Murray. You said he's a bit blowy tonight, blowing the trumpets. But no, it's quite wild. And out where you are, you might be just getting an extra dusting, because I think you're actually quite high there, if I've got that right. Guys, you that are watching on the YouTube, thumbs up, please, down to the bottom left, and click the little thumbs up so I know that you're there. It all helps, I tell you. Thank you very much. Now, Murray, is there? You're our football pundit. Is there any football on tonight? Should I be worried about stealing the audience away from, say, an old firm game somewhere? That sort of idea. Do tell us. I think winter's made a comeback in the last 2 days. Supposed to be rest of the week, though. I know, Amy, because we had such a lovely week last week, and I was beginning to think the rites of spring. I thought it's all happening. So thank you very much, guys, for popping down to the bottom and doing the little thumbs up. Very important. And also make sure you're subscribed as well. We're just about to hit, is it 40,000 subscribers? How many have we got? Let me check. I'll just do a quick check and see what's happening here. So we've got as subscribers. Yes, we're just about to hit another couple of hundred subscribers and we'll make the 41,000. And that's quite respectable. So I am led to believe for a YouTube channel these days. So there we go. So if you haven't subscribed, please do so. It's absolutely free. And it makes no difference to you, but it makes a big difference to the channel if everyone subscribes. Also, check the latest movies that we've uploaded. We tend to concentrate on the finest movies that have ever been made, and I choose them. So I'm to blame if there's anything you think, oh, this wasn't very good. I will want to know why, because they're chosen with great care and they're chosen with great love. And they're chosen especially for you, I say to you. Now, who have we got here? Amy says, oh, sorry, we've got Murray here. Just one Spanish game. Ah, hola, see. Nothing of note. No, I don't know. Why are we watching Spanish football? Supposed to be good the rest of the week. I meant to say, says Amy. Excellent. The sun is back tomorrow for 8 days of dry weather. Ian, how do you know this? Are you a weather forecaster? We love it, though. I mean, this is great. Thomas says, Swiss James, age 24, mental health problems. Thomas, so there we are. Absolutely right. Yes, I don't quite understand that. The weather app on the phone. Oh, good one, Ian. I love it. It's like the story of the old farmer. He goes, aye, the weather's not going to be very good for what we were going to be doing this afternoon. So I says, how do you know? Did you check with the BBC? He says, what do you mean BBC? He says, the cows are lying down and the sheep are pointing their backsides into the wind. Amy says, I checked Google Forecast. It's, well, we'll not say that, Amy, if that wouldn't be fair to them. I say, but there is a fair bit of wind around tonight, I have to say. It's quite wild. I've got a door creaking in the background somewhere. So they were at McCLUE Towers. It's wonderful stuff. Now, so I would be interested in your opinion about that should young ladies who have a baby, should they be able to feed the baby in public? And when I say in public, I mean on the tube and the buses, sitting in a seat in the superstores, whatever. Do you know what I mean? Rather than hiding away, because that's the next generation of children. And it's very, very important. I mean, the poor old generation now have a tough enough time. So we need to give them the very best start. The breastfeeding, that's the stuff. So you can let us know what you think about that. We tend not to be too political, and I'll tell you for why. Because the platform doesn't like it. So they actually will take stuff down if it's not right. You know, if it's not suitable, as they say, suitable. You know what I mean? Absolutely. You know, or you touch on something that's a little bit raw, that has to go. Yes, I can remember going into the doctor's and he said, what's wrong? I said, I have a sore throat. He said, open your mouth. He said, ah, yes, a little raw. And I went, oh. I tell you, there's Stephen's just joined us. Hi, Scotty. The weather here is not bad, if that is the subject. Well, it is the subject. Well, it's one of our subjects, Stephen. But where are you again? You know, people come on and they know where they are. But sometimes, I mean, we get thousands and thousands. Guys, Scottie McClue goes out to 1 million people a week. Now, that's not bad. You might not think it. You think, oh, it's just a handful of people joined us. 1 million a week. And I'm known to 2 billion people. I can tell you. Murray says, my wife used to lob one out to feed her wains, but covered her modesty with a muslin clute. No problems if done that way. No, but I mean, I think we need to have the ladies feeling quite at home. Ian says he's in sunny G. That's Govan in Glasgow. Stephen is in Oregon City in Oregon in the USA. Now, Oregon must be very beautiful because I know Oregon from Oregon pine. So you must have big pine trees in Oregon. Is this true? I ask you. John Doe's just joined us. You would get oglers ogling. John Doe. Come on. Let's raise our game and grow up. I tell you, you're not going to ogle for long. It's a lady feeding a baby, end of. And if it becomes just the most natural thing to do in public, people wouldn't even give it a second glance. So come on. I tell you, it's a natural thing, breastfeeding, says Susan. Of course it is, Susan. And we need to get back to nature. There's too many things aimed at us these days. And we're losing all our attempts at natural living. I saw a thing, and it's a crowd that are going to try and get us to stop gardening because it might slow us down, going to net zero. Well, I don't think we should be in any rush to go to net zero. We've never been to net zero before, and the biggest carbon capturers are the trees. So although there is climate change, we certainly don't need to be getting too excited about it. Somebody said, oh, it'll be a tiny bit warmer in Scotland as the climate changes. And I thought, well, I don't have a problem with that. I can tell you. There's Gordon. Gordon says, Agnes is still expressing milk for my cappuccino. Oh, dear. Yes, there are pine trees, but the famous tree is the Douglas fir. Now, Stephen, is the Douglas fir also the Oregon pine? That's what I want to know. I tell you. So there we are. So let's have a look at that as well. We're talking trees, we're talking weather, we're talking breastfeeding. Never a dull moment on Scottie McClue live on YouTube, I can tell you. And I'm going to open the lines in a minute now that we've got settled down. Welcome back, Gordon, by the way. I know that you've mended your ways. Tups right here says, evening. Oh, good evening, Tups. Now, Tups, I'm going to open the lines, and I think you should join us early-ish tonight. Have you heard the subjects? So there we are. Susan's in hospital, by the way. So she's saying hi to Tups Wahi. Very, very important. But do let us know. If you haven't heard the subject, I can reprise them for you. Replace them for you. Reprise them. It's wonderful stuff. Now then, wait till I just see what's happening. Yes, that's fine. So there we go. Hi, Susan. Quick recap of the topics of POS. Well, I can give you them, Tups Wahi. We're discussing trees. Is Oregon pine, Douglas fir? Is it the same tree? We need to be told, I tell you. There's the wonderful Neil O'Gormley says, good evening, sir. Good evening, Neil. Lovely to have you with us. Neil, I just wanted to thank you for being a Scottie McClue supporter for about 30 years. It's incredible, Hi, Susan, quick recap of them. So we're also talking about breastfeeding. And I remember doing this on the radio some time ago. We had, I started the Lob Wan Oot campaign because I feel that ladies should be able to breastfeed in public without any kind of embarrassment at all. This is the next generation. And I think we lose out from too much formality in this country, too many rules and regulations and petty laws and things like that. This is where we need to have Mr. Trump in, cutting the red tape. So there we go. So that's what we're talking about, Tups. But of course, you and I may end up talking about all sorts of things, or even all sorts, if we're discussing the sweets. That's what I would say. John has joined us from Barnsley. Hi, Scottie from Barnsley. We love Barnsley, John. It's big stuff. Whoa! Now this will go live. You're live in Scottish Funny. Who's that?
Oh, excuse me, Scottie. This is Tups Wahi. How you doing, buddy?
Tups Wahi. Lovely to hear you. And you're well excused. How are we?
I'm all right. I had a very late nap. I had the unusual experience of working on a Saturday. I don't know how you do it, Scotty. It's inhumane working on Saturdays.
Yes. Well, you see, I've actually always done it because when I worked with ITV, they run 24/7. And it was no problem. But sometimes if you'd been late doing a Friday night, because I did a couple of channels at one point, I was doing Glasgow and Carlisle. And so I would have 100-mile dash in between. And sometimes on a Saturday morning, I would be a bit stretchy when I got out the car at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my goodness! And that's not what you want to be doing when you have to introduce the children's cartoons
and everything. You've got to have the energy, and in those days, I still liked a light refreshment. Do you know what I mean? So I had to be very careful and all that. But now it's not a problem. We can just drive anywhere, you know.
Well, I once doing surveillance. My partner that I was working with followed the subject that we were following onto the Carlisle train, and it was my job to get to Carlisle ahead of the train so I could film them getting off, and I managed it as well.
Oh, well done, because there can be complications at the end. See, I remember before the motorway, and what you had to do if you were traveling, we traveled from Greenock in 1959. And yes, it existed then. And
well, I'm going to say I don't think Greenock developed.
No, not really. No. Now Greenock, you see, you went through Langbank and Bishopton and Paisley, and then you went out past the Paisley Mill, out the old East Kilbride Road, and you went to East Kilbride. And then you joined the old A74, and then it went through places like Annan and East Riggs. And then you came down the Scots Road into Carlisle at what they call Hardwick Circus. And then you had to follow the road, you know, away out of Carlisle, out the London Road. Now, in the summer, it was just a nightmare. So my dad used to leave at about 6 o'clock in the evening. And get us down, and we got down to the very far south. We got down to Wallingford and Wokingham by about 5 in the morning.
Oh, I know, that's a hard shift, yeah.
Well, there was more of it, Tups, because wait till I tell you the rest. You went from Carlisle to Kendal.
All right.
Right? You went over the old A6 at Omont Bridge, and then you went to Kendal. And then you stopped.
That's part of the Lake District, isn't it?
Yes. So we down there about, that's right, about 40 miles from Carlisle, and then Kendal, and then you followed the A6 and you went through Preston and out past Bamber Bridge. And where did you go after that? I'm trying to think. Then you'd go through. Did you go through Manchester? But it was an absolute trackle.
Let me guess. It was a Morris Minor with wood panelling.
Well, no. The Minor didn't have wood panelling. I'll tell you, the Minor with wood panelling was the Wolseley and the Riley 1500. It was a standard 10 companion estate.
10 companion, and how many people did you fit into? Like 2.5?
Well, no, there was my sister and I, so my father put down all the seats and we had a wee bed in the back. And my mother was in the front with coffee and soup and egg sandwiches and everything to keep my father going during the night.
Yeah, I mean, to this day, I'll always wear a seatbelt in the front seat. I mean, it saved my life on one occasion, but there's something about wearing seatbelts in the back seat I just can't accept, because we would be bouncing around like marbles in the back of a car back in the day.
Well, do you remember the big cars like the Humber and all that, the bench seat, the column change, and they had a bench seat, and you could have, if it was Waynes, you could get 3 or 4 Waynes sitting in the seat. And some standing up. You had wee 2-year-olds standing up with their back to the windscreen and mother talking to them.
I remember in the 70s being forced to sit on the floor of a taxi because we managed to fit about 8 people into a 6-person vehicle. The kids forced to sit on the ground.
Tops, I'm just going to do a wee bit of feedback before we get into it here.
Of course.
Stephen says the fir's one of the many evergreen trees in the northwest of the USA. And we've got, hi, Scotty from Barnsley, says John, we've got that one. Amy says it's actually a law that women can't breastfeed in public. Well, should that not be changed? And John just says he's in a couple of Aberdeen rowies. Now, that's an Aberdeen roll called a buttery. Or a what is it? A buttery. And then a roll's a softie.
Well, they are. I know the topics, and I mean, to be honest, I just phoned because you suggested them. I don't really know anything about it.
Well, no, it doesn't matter. You see, this is the whole thing. What somebody commented on this week, they said, I love your show, Scotty. He says, and I like that fella, that big fella, Tups Rahe. How he knows what size you are, I don't know. But he said, I love the big fella. And he said, and it's so informal. And I thought, this is the winner. This is why it's so popular. It's informal.
If you could only see how I'm dressed, you would know just how informal it can get.
Well, absolutely. Well, Murray said, I wonder if anyone's ever breastfed while up a Douglas fir on a windy day.
Well, do you know the person to speak to about that is actually Mrs. Sorry, because do you remember the motorway protesters about 30 years ago with Swampy and all that?
Oh yes, climbing the trees.
She was the media spokesperson.
Oh, wonderful.
She was part of it, and she used the nom de plume, if you'll pardon my French.
Yes.
Of trees are green.
or as a friend of mine said, the plum de noom.
I've got a wonderful picture of her from the 1991, I think, and I don't know if you'll remember this, but they unfurled a massive banner from the Finiston Crane saying no M77. Do you remember that at all?
What was that? Say again?
The protesters against the motorway, they unfurled a massive banner from the Finiston Crane that said no M77.
Yes, that's right.
It was Mrs. Tups Rahe that shimmied out onto the end of the crane.
Oh, Mrs. Tups Rahe. No wonder you married her. You must have thought, she's a daredevil.
I've got a wonderful picture of her being busted by the cops with the banner under her arm. And I swear to you, Scotty, she hasn't aged a day in 30 years. It's absolutely bizarre.
Amazing. And I think you'll probably be the same yourself. I think there's a touch of the Peter Pan about you.
No, only psychologically.
Oh, no, Amy's asking, is it a law? He's not saying it is a law.
Well, I'm normally, anything that involves public female nudity, I am well in favour of. So, yes, it gets my vote. And, you know, the campaigners for breastfeeding will always say, it's just a breast, there's nothing sexual about it. No, it's a breast and there's something sexual about it, okay?
No, I think, to be honest with you, genuinely, if it came to pass that it became the most natural thing to feed your children in public transport, nobody would actually bat an eyelid, you know, because
I think that's true. Yeah, I mean, I went on holiday to northern Italy and the south of France in 1980, and so I was 11 years old, and they were topless bathing there, and I was like a pinball machine that had gone to tilt. It was just crazy, but everybody else there seemed to just take it as with a Gallic shrug, you know.
Absolutely. Well, it's the old Scottish joke, you know, the nudist camp and the two dafties having a look over the wall. And one says, what can you see? He goes, it's all scuddies. And he goes, is it men's scuddies or women's scuddies? He says, I can't tell. They've got no clays on.
Oh, fantastic! So yeah, I do like a tree. I can't really identify them, and it's something that I really should. I'd like to be able to know a little bit more.
What's a beech and what? So the leaves are a bit of a giveaway. You know, you can say that's a sycamore and that's a beech and all that sort of stuff. You know.
You know, I last week. By the way, I'm running so far behind. today. I've only had my very first sup just there.
Oh,
So
well, I think a general sup. Guys, if you're watching, refreshment, general sup.
General sup from the top.
Mmm.
Oh, that one hit the spot.
Oh, that's wrong. Oh, I've got the water here. It's very nice.
But last week, if you remember, I was so hungover from the night before, I actually lost my train of thought. I was going to tell you something, and then I completely blanked.
You did. You went blank, and I could tell you were kicking yourself going, I just can't remember.
It's so embarrassing. This is an international talk show.
No, but I mean, we're still allowed a light refreshment if you take one, you know.
Well, yeah, the hair of the dog hadn't kicked in, but
the hairy dog. It's an evening show, so you know we're well past the watershed.
Well, hey, I'm going to up the tone again, but another bit of French. They say l'esprit d'escalier. I thought of it on the stairs, so yes, I remembered what it was after the show finished. So it's not really worth coming about. It's going to really bug me unless I finish my thought from last week. I was talking about how I got a job as a private investigator when I had no experience, nothing. They advertised in the papers. But I thought, there's a pattern here. I went to the interview with a hangover.
Yes, you used to see adverts. Do you fancy being a private investigator?
It was an advert in the Herald, and they were looking for a woman to diversify because all these guys are ex-cops and they all look like ex-cops. But there were 2 interviews involved, and the second one was with the owner as well. But the first interview I went to, I assumed it would be car repossessions and horrible stuff like that there's no chance I would do. It's not in my nature. I couldn't do that, you know. But I found out halfway through the interview that it wasn't car repos, it was actual proper surveillance. And secondly, that I was completely unqualified for it. And so the second interview, the owner asked me, because I worked for the BBC, they were trying to get people with media contacts, because you know, famous investigative journalists will doorstep some miscreant at their house and thrust a microphone into their face. Now, have you ever wondered, Scottie, why the miscreant doesn't just thump the reporter right in the nose?
Well, I think the problem is they're on camera.
Yeah, but what they've also got is out of sight, right behind the camera, there's a ring of between 6 and 8 retired cops just begging the guy to try something.
Oh, yes, I'm with you now, absolutely. Because, no, but some of the reporters are quite tough themselves in a lot of ways.
Well, they certainly portray themselves as that, but what they need, it's also, if you ever wonder if you remember Roger Cook and people like that,
that's
how
right.
How do they know the guy's going to be in when they get the whole camera crew? It's because they've had the guy under surveillance for several days by a private investigation agency beforehand.
Yeah, so they know what's going on. They're pretty sure he's in.
Yeah, they've already got him. They've had the phone call from the agency saying, right, he's in now, send the team over.
And they used to run, if I remember. You saw them running. Come on, he's there, that's him.
Admit it, go on, you're a bad man, admit it. But so the agency wanted contacts for that. But I knew that I was in too deep by the second interview, and I knew not to lie, because if I got the job, then that would be even worse.
Yes.
So I said no, I don't have contacts with that program. I don't have that. And the owner said to me, so why do you think you can do this job? And I said, I don't know if I can, but I'd love to give it a shot. And sure enough, the next day, I woke up to a phone call, and it was the owner said, how do you fancy being a PI? And that was it. Suddenly I was a private investigator.
I love it. I'm just saying, I love it.
Well, one of the things in the interview, as I say, I was not interested in doing dirty work, and sure enough, that's not what they do. And one of the things that the former detective inspector, who was the second in command, he said to me in the interview, we don't let people's tires down to see if they can fix them, right? Because these are cops that have done their 20 plus years. They're not good. You have to go into court and testify to this. You're not going to perjure yourself for the amount of money they were paying us.
No, well, that's right, because, I mean, the money's not great in these things, and I don't think the money's great in police or intelligence work either.
Well, you can retire if you've done your 20 years. You get an extortionate amount of lump sum, and then you get a decent pension, or you did in those days anyway.
If you've done your time, but I mean, it's the time. I mean, it's a risky game. But I remember a funny story when I was working in the media, and it was some reporter that nobody particularly liked, and he was up to all sorts of dodgy things, and he knocked on some famous guy's door, and the famous guy opened the door, and before the reporter could say, "I'm from such and such," he said to him, "Hang on a minute, you got done for such and such with the such and such." And the guys, cut this.
Well, that's it. You're hanging your neck out in that situation. But you know, I said that they specifically in the interview said we don't let people's tires down to see if they can fix them. But sure enough, my first day of being a PI, they sent me around to just have a quick look. We knew the vehicle because I had gone in and managed to gather fantastic intelligence from the guy's neighbour. So we knew what car the guy drove. So when you know what car it is, it's much safer to avoid any problems just by marking the vehicle exits. So you can, you know, if the guy comes out, you don't have to have somebody actually eyes on the door. So they sent me after a couple of hours. They said, "You go around and just see if there's any activity at the house." Sure enough, there's a guy not fixing his tyre. The actual guy that was supposed to, it was a big personal injury thing, and they said we do not let people's tyres down to see it. And the guy's fixing his tyre right there. And I thought, oh my goodness, that's a sign from the divine.
Tell me this: does this just happen in the movies, or this about the surveillance team taking over the flat opposite? Is that a genuine thing?
Oh yes, but I mean, we did. How can I?
I mean, do you ask the tenants to move out, or?
No, it's just the police do all sorts of crazy stuff. I won't go into too many.
No, we're not going into detail. But I mean, it's just interesting that you know, I sometimes see something and I think, this is a movie. Does this actually happen in real life?
No.
You know?
Our agency, which was the biggest agency in Scotland and Northern Ireland, our agency hired a sting house. They rented it, and it was a guy who was doing technological adaptations to a piece of televisual hardware, right? And selling it online now. So the original provider of the televisual hardware hired us, and it was a big job. I mean, we got, I think it was 12 vehicles on this. Guys over from Northern Ireland. It was probably the biggest operation I ever worked on. And we set up a sting house with a supposed customer that wanted one of these chipped units. So we hired that. The cops, they would get stuff, usually houses that are not occupied, but they are so tight. I mean, when you do an operation, private surveillance, theoretically, you're supposed to tell the local cops, but you never tell the local cops because they're just too leaky. So I know a story that I was told by one of my former colleagues who was a cop, and they were trying to get eyes on a house which was miles away. They've got incredible, extremely long-range binoculars. We're talking miles. You can see detail. But there was a large hedge in a council estate, a very large hedge that was obstructing the observation point. So they requisitioned a council van. They got council workers overalls on, and all these cops in complete disguise as council workers just hacked the hedge down one day and then went away in a works van.
And tell me this: how do the cops view PIs? Do they see them as second raters, or?
You see, that's the myth. First of all, virtually all, so many cops, if I ever had deals with them, would know my gaffer from the old days. But no, I mean, what was it? I think, I got a speeding thing, and I had to take my license into the local station, and it was an extremely attractive female police officer. And I said, I'm a private investigator. And said, oh, that's cool. So, no, the cops are very. I think a lot of the cops would love to do it when they retire. But no, we never had any. Occasionally, it always happens. You get burnt. That is, you're found out. You're seen by the. But no, they're very
very understanding, because you're in the same game at the end of the day.
Yeah, pretty much.
Although I remember somebody saying they weren't too fond of parking wardens, the police.
Oh, no. And traffic cops. My old gaffer said, apologies to anybody who's watching this who might be a traffic cop, but you're a bad man. No, you're not. But my surveillance gaffer, he said about traffic cops that, you know, they are a different breed. And the problem that surveillance cops had with traffic cops is that in order to make convictions, they have to have witnesses from the general public who've seen stuff, who will go in and testify. But most people's only experience with the cops is through traffic cops, and a lot of those experiences are very negative. And so that's a real problem for real cops, because a lot of people just simply don't trust the cops because that's their experience.
The traffic offences. They've been going over 30 in the village or something. And
it's the attitude of traffic cops. My gaffer, I don't know whether this is true or not, but he said that traffic cops, a lot of them are going to fail their probation, and then they take traffic duty. Now that's what my gaffer, who was a detective sergeant in the surveillance squad, he said that. But he said literally they would book their own mother. So yeah, there's no love lost between real cops and traffic cops.
Traffic cops. Well, I suppose they're all real cops, you know. I mean, there must be some good driving. I can remember one night, and there was a certain code, we won't obviously say, but it meant that every police vehicle in the world was congregating in one place. And they came up. I mean, if you'd heard the sirens and the blue lights, you'll have seen it a dozen times, 1,000 times. Anyway, they all came fleeing up. And a pal of mine who's a professional driver, you know, I said, did you see that that guy at the end, the big fella that looked like a farmer? He went, I have never seen such a display of bad driving in my life.
Well, you know, talking about, sorry, we should let somebody else on, but just very quickly, you call them your neighbour, not your partner, but my partner that I was working with as a PI for years. His name is Andy. Yeah, they call them neighbours. I found out why at a party once when I referred to my partner Andy, and she said, "Oh, I didn't realise you were gay." And it's like, no. Right, so they call them neighbours. So my neighbour Andy, he was a cop for 23 years, going back to the early 70s, and he told me that when he was in uniform back in about 1971, 72, not far from where I live in Govan Hill, they get into a ruckus with the locals. Him and his neighbour in uniform, and he said they were getting absolutely battered, and they had their walkie-talkies, but they couldn't describe. It was in the back of a close, and they couldn't describe exactly where they were. And he said there was like 25 people, him and his neighbour back to back with their fists and their truncheons, and he said it was about 25 people around them trying to just batter them. And he said, and he's saying this and laughing while he's telling them the story. And he said at that point, every single police officer in Glasgow was stopped what they were doing and were trying to find them. Every single cop in Glasgow. And meanwhile, they're having this epic battle in a back garden.
Well, you go back, I mean, my uncle, the one that died in the Battle of the Atlantic, 1943, he was only 21. And he was a remarkable man. He was a lovely guy. You'll probably see him on my videos. Uncle Colin, and he was a cop in the Gorbals under Percy Sillitoe in 1939, 1940, that sort of stuff. And I remember my grandfather, who was a master carpenter, had made him a baton of green heart oak. You know, said, that'll do if you get any wee Neds. And he said, Daddy, if I used that, it'd be done for manslaughter. He says, it's the wee Neds I shout on when I'm in trouble.
Oh my God, that would bang justice into anyone, wouldn't it?
Well, yes, because I mean, if you think about it, most folk are decent folk.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
and if they see a fella, you know, I mean that stuff. And this was Percy Silliter, how he put a stop to the razor gangs. He just recruited the big Highlanders. And he said, "You will not be charged with grievous bodily harm. This has to stop." And these big Black Mariahs, as they called them, the police vans, were just squealing up to a gang fight. Out got the big Highlanders with a good club and just wallop, wallop, wallop. And eventually the wee Glasgow gangsters are going, "Where's the score here?" You know, and all that stuff. And it stopped.
I must say, I love a good a demonstration of good police work. Just a couple of years ago, I was vaping outside court, and there were these two Neds, and they were openly smoking dope. And when I came out about 10 minutes later, and there's these two cops standing at them. They're sitting on the wall. The Neds are sitting on the wall, and one of the cops, he must have been about 6'7". Right? He's enormous. And the two Neds are giving it a bit of lip, right? So it's like, "Oh man, that's no fair in that, man. You're pure picking on us, man. You're that whining, constant stream of consciousness." And the big cop leaned right over him, and at the top of his voice yelled, "Shut up!" and the Ned shut up. I'm telling you.
See, that's what we need. I've no time for these auditor people. Cheeking up to the police. See, in days gone by, I don't know what's changed. I suppose it's the fact they go, "I'm filming for my own protection." But in days gone by, these guys would have been invited into the back of the van for a chat, you know, and that would have put a stop to that.
Yeah. I mean,
you know, this is a true story. This I'll not give the exact date, but we're going back a bit. And the chief constable of Glasgow was very well known, and well, as all chief constables are. And his deputy, and he said to him one night, "There's been a bit of trouble down at the so and so." He said, "Put your coat on, we're going out." So he and his deputy, two top cops, straight into a pub, climbed up on the table, said, "Can you all just listen up, please? Now, we know what's going on and we know who's doing it. Now, if it doesn't stop, we will be into everything. And I mean everything. Thanks for your attention, gentlemen. Enjoy your night." And the pair of them went away, right? They had a coat over their uniforms, right? And the pair of them went away. And it stopped. And I was telling a policeman this recently, a friend of mine, and they went, "Well, I don't know that it would work now, but you never know."
Well,
because what the Neds do not want is the police getting into everything.
Well, yes, indeed. And there was. This is now about 20 years ago. Forgive me, Scotty. I'm just pouring myself a drink.
No, I think we should all have a general sup. General sup every day.
But I'm just having to make my own drink because Mrs. Tuxley has shut the door because she's watching something.
Oh, you're actually no, she'll know. She'll be listening at the door to hear what you're saying.
Yeah, well, you would imagine so, but you know,
she's told you she's watching something.
But goodness knows what she could be watching. But yeah, about 20 years ago, there was a well-connected Ned managed to escape from prison, and he couldn't be found for a few weeks. It was quite a big news story. But my gaffer at the time, my PI gaffer, told me exactly how the police handle this, and it's just genius. What they do is they go to the guy's house because they know somebody in the family's hiding the guy. So they go to the house and arrest his brother. Then if he doesn't show up, then they arrest his father. And then if he doesn't show up again, they arrest his mum. And then they know that unless he's going to show up, it's going to be the granny and granddad next. And as soon as they get to the granny and granddad, the guy's always right, that's it, it's a fair cop. Here I am.
Yeah, well, I got a call on the radio one night, and it was a lady, and she were talking about bad people and the jail, the big house, as we called it, and all that. And she goes, "Scotty, son, you know, this is what I love about informal radio. I mean, you know, we had millions listening to that show. And she
Yeah.
goes, Scottie, son, I've got 5 boys in the jail. I says, 5? I says,
5?
what are they playing at? I says, have you got a man? She went, aye. I said, where's he? She goes, oh, he's sitting here, Scottie. I says, well, you keep an eye on him.
I mean, one son in jail you could mark down as careless as an accident, but
5
2
boys
in
in the
is
jail.
just carelessness.
And I can remember a guy on, he says, Scottie, don't underestimate the folk in the jail. There's a lot of very clever people in the jail. I says, if they're that clever, what are they doing in the top bunk?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't think I would last long in jail, Scottie. I'm too pretty.
That's wonderful. Take the mirrors out. The doctor told me I wasn't to get a shock, so I've taken the mirrors out the house.
Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, I failed to address either of the topics really.
Oh yes, that's well, not to worry. I mean, you know, there's always something interesting on here.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, but I'll split and let somebody else come on for
what a privilege to hear you, and lovely chat.
All right.
Oh, listen, before you go, listen. Yep. Here's Murray. What an interesting chap, poor Tups.
Well, that's very, very kind of you, Murray. Thank you very much.
What about that? That's not bad, is it? I tell you.
That's the best review I've ever had.
What an interesting chap, our Tups. So that's you're very privileged. You're up there.
All right. Well, listen, top chat, Scottie. Take care of yourself.
DINKY-DOO, all the best. Ta-da now.
Bye-bye.
Oh, wonderful chat. That's our Tups. That's the way of it. Now, what have we got here? Let me see. There we are. Right. Lots and lots of stuff here. Oh, is it actually a law? Yes, about breastfeeding. Yes. So there we go. Robert Scrimger, top man, Scottie. Which is the second highest mountain peak in the British Isles? It's also apparently haunted by a giant hairy creature. I may have met him. The giant hairy creature. Well, wait a minute now till I see. So is Ben Nevis not the highest in Scotland? And then you've got Ben Lomond. Yes. What's Ben Nevis? Is it 4,000 feet, something like that? I'm just trying to think back. You're making me go into my archive here in my head. So the second highest mountain peak. The second highest mountain peak in Scotland or did you say in Britain? In British Isles. The British Isles. You've got Scawfell Pike in Cumbria, but I don't think that's the highest. So there we are. Murray says, Robert, it's Ben McDooey by the pass of Larry Grew. Up the Larry Grew, I say to you. My goodness me. Tried a chicken Kiev tonight. Very stodgy, says John Doe. Yes, well, there's a lot of garlic in them, isn't there? Opinions on Fortnite, Scottie. Flip, can you play Fortnite once a week? Susan says, I hope David's okay. He's not on again this week. David might have deserted us, actually, Susan, just because he didn't like the way the show was going. Too many people on from America, he said. Yes, what an interesting chap. Your Tups. You're absolutely right, Murray. Thank you, Susan, says Tups. Snowdonia, says Amy. So there we are. Janet says, yes, they bounce off each other very well. You're welcome, Tups for here, says Susan. The Wynford skyscrapers. Now, John Doe, I was sorry in a way because I stayed yards from the Wynford. Had been the old Maryhill barracks. If you see an old picture of my house in Maryhill, you can see the barracks behind it, just yards up. In fact, there was some elderly residents that came for the barracks. So there you are for the HLI in 1942. And you've also got, somebody sent a picture on another platform about the Walcheren barracks. And somebody had been saying, was that not where David Niven was during the war? But no, he was a lieutenant in the HLI, and he was stationed in Maryhill Barracks, which became the Wynford Flats. Now, here's a bit of information for you may or may not know. But the day, I think the exact day that they opened the Wynford Flats, they closed Maryhill Central Station, which is now the Superstore, just in the middle. If you're going up the Garrioch Road, you'll see the Superstore. And that was Maryhill Central Station. And the trains came in across the car park and then went out down. There's a bridge just at the back of, I think it's Garrioch Quadrant up there. And the skyscrapers. So the Wynford, I would think, must be 1961. So what's that, 64 years ago? Well, I suppose 64-year-old flats. Yes, yes. And they brought down, was it 3 blocks last week? There must have been some dust storm. If anybody saw it in person, do please tell. Because I would have think everything must have had a bit of a whoa when that lot went off. Very, very professional demolition job, though. Down they went like a pack of cards, virtually at the same time. You know, but I wondered if everybody had to be evacuated and what was the setup. Does anybody know? So, John Doe, if you know, do let me know. I tell you. What else is happening? What time? Oh my goodness me, I don't believe it. Guys, we've only got a few minutes left. Can you believe it? I tell you. Now, I don't know if you've been looking at the videos, but we've got the Honor little lady. Can you see that the right way around? Honor little lady. Now, this turned up. It had gone missing. Well, I couldn't find it 29 years ago. My father passed away, and it was his. And 29 years ago this time of year. And in it is the little lady. Can we see that? It says Honor. Can you see that? And then on the other side is little lady. It's difficult to know if you can see that or not. It's quite small. On a little lady. So there you go. Yes, right way around the camera. Thank you, Tuts. Yes, indeed. The Wynford skyscrapers, one of the flats will be dismantled by hand, Scotty. Wow. They're getting of tower blocks. They're getting rid of tower blocks in Motherwell. Yes, the right way around to the camera, thank you. The Wynford was latterly known as New North Kelvinside. That's right. I remember when I bought a flat in North Kelvinside, and everyone goes, shut up, it's Maryhill. There we are. Yes, clearly visible. Excellent. Good, good. Now, I'm going to give you a wee tune. Now, name that tune that I say to you. Obviously, I'm not a mouth organist, you know, but we can get a wee bit of a tune out. But it's only 4 notes. I suppose it's 8 if you're talking blah and souk. So there we go. Tasser here says that's probably the most wonderfully melancholic instrument I've ever heard. Janet says, sweet. Guys, if you're just watching, can you all go down to the bottom left, give me a thumbs up, and make sure you are subscribed. Let me just check. If you've just joined us, welcome. By the way, you're watching Scottie McClue, hashtag FLOTI, the first lord of the internet, the world's top broadcaster, without any shadow of doubt, and the world's most humble man. Just in case you thought there was a wee bit of trumpet blowing there, you know. Aha. Or with organ blowing. Now, here we got. Right. So we need another 7 subscribers right now. So if there's 7 people watching who haven't subscribed, please do so and share the channel, because we want to build up. We're nearly at 41,000 subscribers, and I'm reliably informed that that's very good for YouTube these days. So there you go. I tell you, was that hymnal? Well, it became a wee bit hymnal, Murray. We started off on one tune and went on to another one. I just noticed you're over 40k now subs. Well done. Is that quite good, chaps? I'm never sure. All things fine and beautiful, says Mickey. Mickey, pretty close. All things bright and beautiful. All creatures great and small. I can tell you. Mickey says that certain politicians need to go. Well, you don't inhale that with you, Scotty. I know, Murray. I don't want you all sitting there as I go purple in the pus. And I think, but at least as I breathed in and out, we might get a tune. Do you see what I'm saying to you? That's good for YouTube and stuff. Right, good one. I tell you, get 50k before the end of the year, Scotty. I'd hope so, Amy, but we need to spread the word. And we need to link. I mean, the movies have got thousands of views, and we want to get the same number watching the lives. Although I have to say, a lot of people watch the lives later as it goes over the week, and they go, oh, I must have missed that. And also somebody was saying that they didn't necessarily get their notifications. So I would urge everybody to tap the bell, send me a notification when Scottie McClue goes live. I tell you. But no, 50k would be good. Although I would like, say, 500,000 so we can get into the chat, because the show is very much enjoyed. So we're obviously getting it fairly right. There's Susan. Good night, Scotty, and Tuxra Hay, and Numpty Heat, and Murray. Now, we haven't heard from Numpty Heat tonight. I wonder how he bees. So there we go. He'll be having a listen, the same Numpty Heat, I tell you. To get a notification, you have to be using the YouTube app on a phone. Unless I'm actually on the YouTube site on my PC at the time, I don't get a notification. So if you were working on YouTube at the time we go live, would you get a wee flash up, Tops? Just to say, I tell you. Night, Susan. Take care. Thank you, Murray. Everybody saying good night. We've got 1 more minute. I'm just going to check if anybody else has subscribed. Yes, you have. Thank you very much. So if we could have another 6 subscribers by the end of the show, that gives you exactly 1 minute. I'd better dash. Love you guys. Thank you for a wonderful show. Thank you for watching. This is Scottie McClue saying dinky-doo to every single one of you. You know what to do. You know the form. Stick out your tongue and say ta-ta, ta-ta, and again, ta-ta.